2,500 years ago, in a China torn apart by war and chaos, a teacher wandered the roads with a handful of disciples, with no riches, no army, and no power, handing out something far more lasting than all of that: words. His name was Confucius, and those simple sayings he spoke amid the dust of the roads have outlived entire empires, dynasties, revolutions, and centuries of forgetting. Today, 2.5 millennia later, they remain so precise that they seem written this very morning, with you in mind. Over the next few minutes, we are going to walk through 8 of his most powerful sayings, one by one, and uncover what they truly mean for your life right now. They are not ornaments to quote on social media. They are sharp tools to think better, suffer less, and live with more meaning. Get comfortable, take a deep breath, and listen closely, because each one of these 8 sayings is a seed, and it is enough for just one of them to take root in you for the way you see the world to change forever. These are 8 sayings of Confucius that you need to hear. The first saying of Confucius is perhaps the simplest and, at the same time, the hardest to live by. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. We live in a world obsessed with speed. We want immediate results, overnight transformations, and when they do not come, we quit. But Confucius understood something that time has failed to disprove in 2,500 years. What truly matters is not the speed of your steps, but their direction and your consistency. A slow walker who never stops travels farther than a runner who gives up at the first sign of fatigue. Think of water. It is neither strong nor fast, and yet, drop by drop, it carves through the hardest stone. Not by its violence, but by its silent perseverance. You do not need to be the most talented or the fastest. You only need to refuse to quit. Every day you keep going, even by a single step, brings you closer to the person you want to become. True failure is not moving slowly. The only real failure is standing still forever. So forget the hurry, forget comparing yourself to those who seem to move faster, and focus on one single thing. Today, no matter what, do not stop. The second saying of Confucius is a balm for anyone who has fallen. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Notice what this means. Confucius does not promise you a life without stumbles. On the contrary, he takes it for granted that you will fall again and again, because falling is part of being alive. What sets an admirable person apart is not a perfect, unscarred existence, but the ability to get back on their feet after every blow. The fall does not define you. What you do after the fall, that is what defines you. Many people believe the great men and women of history were special because they never failed. It is exactly the opposite. They failed more often than most, but they refused to stay on the ground. Every time life knocks you down, remember that this is not the end of your story, only one more page. The shame is not in falling. It is in lying there when you could rise. So when the next blow comes, and it will, do not ask, why has this happened to me? Ask, how do I get up now? Because your worth is not measured by how many times you fall, but by how many times you choose to begin again. The third saying of Confucius tears down the most common excuse of all. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. How many times have you given up on a dream simply because it seemed too big? You want to change your body, your work, your entire life, and the distance between where you are and where you want to be paralyzes you. The mountain looks impossible, so you do not even try. Confucius offers you the only way out that truly works. Do not look at the whole mountain. Bend down and move the first stone, then the second. Every immense achievement in history, every temple, every empire, every extraordinary life was built the same way, a small act repeated with patience. The secret is not superhuman strength, but starting, today, with something ridiculously small. A single page, a single minute, a single conversation. What looks like magic from the outside is always, on the inside, accumulation. People fail not because the mountain is too high, but because they try to move it in one push and, unable to, they quit. Do not make that mistake. Do not try to move the mountain. Just tomorrow, lift one stone. And the day after, another. One day, without noticing, you will look back and the mountain will be gone. The fourth saying of Confucius is one of the most profound ever spoken about the human mind. Learning without thinking is wasted labor. Thinking without learning is dangerous. Notice the perfect balance it holds. There are people who devour books, courses, and videos without pause, but never stop to digest anything, to ask what they just heard truly means for their lives. They pile up information the way one piles up objects in a storage room. Much noise, little wisdom. To learn without thinking is to fill the head without feeding the soul. But there is the opposite error, just as serious. There are those who lock themselves inside their own ideas, turning their thoughts over and over without ever testing them against reality or the experience of others. To think without learning is dangerous, because you can convince yourself of anything, however absurd, with no one to correct you. True wisdom is born from the marriage of the two, studying the world with humility and, at the same time, reflecting honestly on what you study. Read, but stop to think about what you read. Think, but dare to put your ideas to the test. Do not be a warehouse of facts, nor a prisoner of your own opinions. Be both at once, and you will begin to see the world as few ever do. The fifth saying of Confucius fits in a handful of words, yet it could spare you half the troubles of your life. When anger rises, think of the consequences. Notice how precise it is. Confucius does not tell you not to get angry. He knew anger is human, that it springs up on its own, without permission, like a spark. What he asks of you is something far wiser, that between the spark and the fire you place a single thought. Before you shout, before you send that message, before you break something that may have no repair, stop for an instant and ask, what will happen after this? Almost all the harm human beings do to one another is born from a few seconds of unchecked fury. Words that cannot be taken back. Doors that close forever. Relationships of years destroyed in an outburst that barely lasted a minute. Anger promises you instant relief and charges you an enormous price in the long run. That is why the wise person is not the one who never feels rage, but the one who learns to let the first wave pass before acting. Breathe once. Picture tomorrow. Ask whether what you are about to do in anger you would approve of once you are calm. That small space between the impulse and the action is, quite literally, the space where your freedom lives. The sixth saying of Confucius is a thorn in the pride of us all. The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions. We live in an age of noise. Everyone announces what they are going to do, proclaims their plans, displays their intentions, and very often that is where it all ends, in the announcement. We talk so much about what we are going to be that we drain the very energy we needed to actually be it. Confucius reverses that formula completely. The man, or woman, of real worth speaks little and does much. They do not need to promise, because their results speak for them. They do not need to convince you of their discipline, they show it to you. The emptier a person is on the inside, the more noise they make on the outside to hide it, the more solid they are, the less they need to announce themselves. Think of the people you truly admire. They are almost never the ones who talk most about themselves, but the ones who, in silence, do what they say. So stop announcing to the world the person you are going to be. Become her, quietly, day after day, and let your actions, not your mouth, tell your story. Promise little, deliver much. That is the silent mark of all true greatness. The seventh saying of Confucius is an invitation to live awake. Wherever you go, go with all your heart. It seems simple, but it is one of the most revolutionary, because it runs against the way we almost always live. Most of us are split in two. When we work, we dream of resting. When we rest, we feel guilty for not working. We eat while staring at a screen. We listen to someone while thinking about something else. We are everywhere and, at the same time, nowhere. Confucius reminds us that this constant division is a silent form of suffering and of mediocrity too. When you do something halfway, with your mind elsewhere, you not only do it worse, you miss your own life while it is happening. Total devotion transforms even the humblest task. Sweeping the floor with all your attention is more noble than ruling an empire with an absent mind. So wherever you are today, truly be there. When you work, work. When you rest, rest without guilt. When you are with someone you love, look at them as if they were the only person in the world, because in that moment they are. Life is not lived in the future you plan or the past you remember. It is lived here, in what you are doing now. Give it your whole heart. The eighth and final saying of Confucius is, in a way, the foundation of all the others. True knowledge is to know the extent of your own ignorance. Stop and think about it. The wisest man of his time did not boast of knowing everything. On the contrary, he said that wisdom begins when you honestly acknowledge all that you do not know. It is a beautiful paradox. The more you truly learn, the larger what you still do not know grows before your eyes. The fool believes he already knows it all, and so he stops growing. The wise man knows he has barely scratched the surface, and so he never stops learning. Arrogance is a closed door. Humility, on the other hand, is a door thrown wide open through which all the knowledge of the world can enter. When someone tells you they have the absolute answer to everything, be wary. Total certainty is almost always a sign of ignorance in disguise. And when you catch yourself sure that you have it all figured out, remember this saying and begin asking questions again. To acknowledge what you do not know is not weakness. It is the first and most courageous step toward true wisdom, because only the one who knows his cup is half empty is willing to keep filling it for the rest of his life. So remember these 8 sayings of Confucius, because together they trace an entire path. Do not stop, however slowly you go. Rise every time you fall. Move the mountain by carrying away the first stone. Learn and think at the same time. Master your anger before it masters you. Speak little and do much. Go everywhere with your whole heart. And never stop acknowledging how much you still have to learn. Confucius left no riches and no palaces. He left a way of living that still stands when everything else has fallen. Do not try to apply them all at once. Choose tonight just one, the one that struck you most deeply, and begin to live it tomorrow. One seed is enough. If this video gave you something, leave a like and subscribe for more timeless wisdom every night, here on Stoa Nocturna. Take good care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.